Let's begin once again the Mishnah Daf Tzadiches Amid Beis. And we're talking about a case of a bunch of ladies that gave birth and the children got mixed up. Chamesh Noshim Shenisarvu Vladosehem, right? The newborn babies got mixed up. So we don't know really which one of them is the son of which woman. Higdilo Hataroves, all these children that were mixed up now became older, V'nasu Noshim, and during the course of their lives they married and then Mesu, and therefore their wives respectively now fall for Yibum, but only in front of a brother who's Vada, that we know he is the Yavam, he is the brother of the late Reuven. And the reason for that is because once there's a mixture and we don't know who the brother is, then there's no possibility of being miyabim, a woman who's a suffix as to whether or not she is married to your brother, because you don't know if he's your brother. Because in a suffix, it becomes a suffix erev of Eishes Ach. So we can't allow for yibum in such a case. However, the Mishnah has a shtick, a way that we could get at least one yibum, and we'll see maybe even multiple yibums out of this mixture. How so? Arba choltzin liachas. We'll choose one lady, and 4 out of the 5 will give a chalitza. Therefore, the 5th, mimonefsham. If, as luck would have it, he is the real Yava, meaning the deceased, Reuben is really his brother, then fine. He could be miyabim. And even in the worst case scenario, that this is not his brother's wife, because that wasn't his brother, then he can marry her because she's a Yavam L'Shuk. We know for sure that she got chalitza. Because again, we're only working on the side that this man, number 5, is not the Yavam. So that means one of the previous 4 is the Yavam, included in, A, B, C, and D. And they all gave a chalitza. Everybody got it? So again, Mimonef Shach, it's okay. Either he is the real Yavam, and he's been Mekayim Mitzvah Yibum, or alternatively, he's not the Yavam, but the Yavam is amongst that mixture of the other 4, and they all, including the Yavam, gave a Chalitza, so there's no Isser of Yavam Alashah. So as long as we're in a suffix situation, we cannot allow Yibum, because it's a suffix erev of Eishes Ach. If we can somehow juggle it and engineer a situation where it's definitely not a situation of Yibum, and she got chalitza from the Yavam, then he's just marrying a woman who he's allowed to marry, because she's no longer Yavam L'Shuk, and he's not the Yavam. And on the side that he is the Yavam, as we said before, then Adarab L'Shkoyach, he's Mekayim the Mitzvah Yibum. I'm thinking to myself, I'm just joking now, that if there was a bracha on the Mitzvah Yibum, then in this case he would not be able to recite that bracha. He could recite Birchas Erisin, but not Birchas Yibum, if there was such a bracha. Yibum. And the reason why he couldn't make that bracha is we don't even know if he's the Yavam. There's a 20% chance that he is the Yavam and he's fulfilling the mitzvah of Yibum. There's an 80% chance that he's not the Yavam, and he's just marrying a woman who he's not related to. But the Mishnah goes on. And although we chose one woman, and all 4 brothers out of 5 gave her chalitza, which will allow one brother, we'll call number 5, to get married to this woman, we don't stop here. We can still match up and get some marriages out of this. How so? Echad miyabim also. After number 5 will be miyabim this woman, and we apply the mimonef shach. Now, who ushlosha choltzin liachas min? Let's get another set. We'll choose another woman out of the 5, and 4 out of the 5 brothers again will give a chalit. So one of those 4 is the one who is miyabim the other woman. He'll give her chalitza. Then once again, you have a new number 5. I mean, he's no longer number 5 in the original round. Is cholzin liyachas. Nimsa, if you apply this over and over again, arba chalitzos v'yibum l'chol achas v'yachas. You can establish a yibum in quotation marks for all 5 women. And how is that so? Because time after time, you're going to have 4 of these men, the Tarovis Suffolk men, giving chalitz. Okay. Now the Gemara says again, just as a quick review, Dafka Michlitz for Hadar Yibume. We have to make sure that the chalitz takes first, because otherwise the Yibum is a suffix erev aveshus ach. Yibume bereisha lo tikapaga be yivam alashuk. Now it might be an Eishus ach situation. It might be yivam alashuk. So the Gemara explains the Mishnah Mai. What does the Mishnah mean when it says "Hu shlosha cholzin liachas"? The lo table yabinu chad lekulu, that one could be yabim all of them. We want to get it. Want to get every. We want to maximize the statistical probability that the mitzvah of Yibum will be fulfilled. Elakol chad v'chad miyabim chada. So we want to match up each one of these spekos with one of the 5 ladies whose husbands fell for Yibum. Dilma Misrami Leidida, because this maximizes our potential, our possibility that maybe the mitzvah of Yibum will be fulfilled. In each individual case, it's 1 out of 5. But when you take 5 cases together, there are 5 shots at that one possible match, which would be Yibum. And that's what we want to accomplish. Okay, now we have another case. Miktsasan achim umiktsasan she'ena achim. So again, the Gemara is going to try to explain what that means. You have a taroves, and within the taroves, we know for sure about Ploni that he's an ach, whereas the rest of them we don't know about. And the Gemara is going to ask, how can you have such a scenario? Now, once you have miktsasan achim, meaning vadoim, but we know clearly that in this taroves, these 2 are definitely brothers from the same father. So in that case, you can have a yibum, which is vada. Till now, we didn't have such a. Ha'achim cholzin, v'sha'ein achim miyab. In other words, those achim who are vaday achim, they will implement chalitza. And once they do so, they have definitely removed the zika, because these are vaday achim. And now the rest of the group of the taroves is able to do yibum, because there's no longer Yivam Shuk Isa, because the Vaday Achim already gave Chalitza. So the Gemara asks Maika Amar, what exactly is the scenario? Rav Sachba Hochikam, Miktsasam, Achim in A'av. So amongst this mixture, we know that some of them are definitely brothers from the same father. Miktsasam, Achim in A'av. So it's really interesting. You have some brothers that we know share the same father, and you have amongst the rest, the balance of Tarovis, a situation of Vadai brothers from the same mother, which are maternal brothers. That's Rav Saf. Now, at this point, I'm going to read to you the Masifta, and he has a gigantic diagram trying to explain Rav Saf. I mean, just take a look at the size of this diagram. Like this is the winner diagram. Don, it looks like you're smiling. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's hard to see under the shades. You know, it's hard to see.
I'm still on my old computer. Sorry.
All right. It's an oldie but goodie. You remember that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's the old wine is good one. I mean, in this case, I would prefer the new one, but you know, whatever you have, you have. You know,
the new one. I'm restoring all my files to the new one, so it's going to take a little time.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's a process. Okay, he says the following: Rachel v'Chana, shtehen, these two women, mitoch chamisha noshes avloseim, hayu nisuos shtehem leRuven. So Ruven married two of these 5 women that are in this tarot, which means the children, the sons, let's say, of Ruven will definitely be Achim Mina'ah. They share the same father. Okay, so we have, once again, Rachel and Chana married to Ruven. Yolda Rachel es Yosef. Yosef is now the product of a marriage between Ruvain and Rachel. Begirsha Ruvain v'nises Boaz, Nisala Boaz. And now Rachel, the mother of Yosef, gets married to Boaz. Now, if Boaz has a son from a previous marriage, and now, after marrying Rachel, they have a son together, those 2 sons, just 1 second, let me get this straight. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Second. Trying to think how we get to Achim min ha'em. Okay, maybe it's coming around the bend. The Ata Yoldu Rachel Ruvain. Just 1 second. Rachel was divorced by Ruvain and now is married to Boaz. Is that correct? Ata Yoldu Rachel Ruvain. V'Chana mi Boaz. I don't remember that he mentioned that Boaz married Chana. Oh, Chana was his first wife. If I have that correct. Right, because now Rachel, who's the Grusha of Ruvain, gets married to Boaz. Boaz has a son from a previous marriage. And now we have the son of the marriage of Rachel to Reuven. And so again, Yosef is the son of the marriage between Reuven and Rachel, correct? We have that? Okay, you'll remind me of this because I'm relying on your memory. Now, Hannah has a son from Boaz. He doesn't give you a name, but I'm assuming that the son of Hannah from Boaz is not related to Yosef, the son of Reuven. Maybe now it'll make sense. Yosef hu bna shel Rachel, that we said, right? Rachel was married in a first marriage to Reuven, and they had a child named Yosef. Yeshlo v'taroves halolu ach me aviv Yeshlo v'taroves halolu ach me aviv Noshel Chana Ishes Reuven. So again, Yosef and another son of Reuven from a different mother. So we start with Yosef is the son of Rachel and Reuven. Now we have another son who is the son of Hannah and Reuven. Because remember we said that Reuven was married to two wives, Rachel and Hannah. So the two sons, I should say, of Rachel and Hannah are brothers through the common father Reuven. And those are two vadais. They are unquestionably brothers me'av. Therefore, yesh mitzvah liyavmo. The achnos saf b'noshel Reuven mi Boaz. Rachel mi Boaz. Rachel got a divorce from Reuven. Now she married Boaz, and she had a son. Now that son, in relationship to Yosef, right? Yosef was the son of Rachel and Reuven. So now they have a common mother, Rachel. Shehu achiv rak mi imo. Now, who's achiv rak mi imo? There's another brother. There's another brother born to the marriage relationship between Rachel and Boaz, because after Rachel got divorced from Reuven, she married Boaz. So that son is a half brother to the son of Rachel and Reuven. Correct? Because they both share the same mother, Rachel. So that makes them achiv me'ima. Ishto shel ach ze asur la beisur eishes ach. The ein mitzvahs yibu. Vadinu ba'ofen ze elu sheyesh lem bataruvas achim min ha'em cholzen. There's no yibu because it's achim min ha'em. But Yosef Sheyesh lo b'taruvas ach min ha'em, shalom min ha'av. Right, Yosef is the product of Ruvain and Rachel, and now we have a brother because after Rachel is divorced by Ruvain, she married Boaz, and now they had a son. That son is Yosef's half brother, but only min ha'em. They share the same mother. So Yosef has achim min ha'av and achim min ha'em. Eino reshoy liyavim af achas me'anoshim af liachar shecholzu lo kulon. So clearly Yosef cannot be miyabim, the wife of his half-brother through his mother, meaning through Rachel, and that would apply even if all the brothers in this suffix would give chalitza, because Shem is zu sheyibem hoisen esua li achiv min ha'em. Because perhaps the one that he's going to be miyabim might have been married to his maternal brother. B'noshel Rachel mi Boaz, shasru lo b'Yisrei shes'ah. But what confuses me is if there's a vada yeshesach, why can't he marry? Why can't he be miyabim that vada yeshesach? I guess maybe she's not in this tarovis.
Oh no, I mean she is.
She is.
The
So
whole point is she's mixed in there. He knows for sure that there's a wife in here who was married to this paternal brother. He just doesn't know which one.
oh, he doesn't know which of these women were married to his paternal brother.
Right, because they all got mixed up again. It's the same kind of case. All five got mixed up.
Right.
Except now instead of the five being totally unrelated, one is related to him as a paternal brother, and one is related to him as a paternal brother.
Okay, so again, even if all of them would give chalitza, he doesn't know. It might be his maternal brother.
Right.
And that would be an Eishesach. Okay, so what can we do in this case? He says that he who's a vadai yavam, a vadai ach min ha'av, is cholet l'chol ha'nashim. He gives chalitza now to all the women. The achim min ha'av miyavnim. The four rest of the brothers that are mixed in could all do yibum, meaning in the same way that we had in that Mishnah with that round robin, which means that, we'll choose one and they'll all give her chalitza, and then he could be miyavim her, and then we'll choose another one, and he, together with the other brothers, will be cholet, so she has a chalitza and so forth. Next, Miktsasan Kohanim. We never got a chance to look at the Yalkut HaBi'urim here. We haven't done that in a while. Let me just very quickly, if you don't mind. But here, I just want to point out, we have something here on page Tzadi Beis. It says, the Torah was mafkir the zera of a nochnu. Afkare Rachmana Lizare. So that's why you could have two brothers that are biological brothers, but they're gerim, and they're not related to each other. Nechlaku Rishonim bebira klal shechitcha gemara shefkira Torah zara shel hanochi. Ha'ivu beikar biyaso mishum kach ein bo isur. Is the Torah saying that the bia itself cannot generate an isur erva? Oshu rak le'inyan yichus. Aval yesh isur bibiyasa. Wow. Like, let's say, for example, a guy would rape a Jewish girl who's married. What would be the status of that rape? If we're saying that after Rachmana Lizare, that his bia is not considered a bia, then that would not generate what we call Yeharig Val Yava, that you would have to give up a life rather than have bia. But if we're saying it's only a din in Yuchsin, but his bia is a full-fledged bia, then we have a problem of Yeharig Val Yava. Let's see if I'm right. He says, Yuma daf pei beis nara muraso he be'eharig val yav. So the Gemara derives from a pasuk that a married woman should have to give up her life rather than commit adultery. That's one of the big three, right? Da'ainu shetzar kol echad limsar nafsho al gilui arayos. The Hikshuat Tosfos, Masha Omer Biksuvish, et Snuos, Hayimosros, es Atzma Lemisa, B'Peshto Yosro Baleim. This is the famous sugi of Hegmon. So the Hegmon, and there's a word in Latin for this, but I forget what it's called. He would have bia with a basula, even on the night of her marriage. That was the requirement, that if not, pain of death. So the Gemara says that the tznuos, the girls who were very pious, would give up their lives rather than submit themselves to that relationship with the hegmon. And the Gemara says that lidrosh lahu dionit shari, we should teach them that they don't have to give up their lives in that case. Lo hoyelem limsar atzman avur zeh. Why? Because it's a case of onus. It's a rape situation. So this has to do with the difference between a man and a woman, that a man has to give up his right because he's active, while the woman is passive. She's what's called karka olam, like Esther without Achashverosh. So the Gemara says that if not for this special explanation of onus, she would have to give up her life rather than have bia with the hegmon. L'chora soteres sugya zuasu shem tzarich limsos nafshal gilei arayos. And it means that we do recognize the bia of a guy. Ma'hik sh'sar gemara mimashe ba'ones eno nesar sal ba'aleim arei adayin tzricha limsar sanefshal gilei arayos. It makes sense that the tznuos would have to give up their lives rather than violate Gilei Arayos, and it has nothing to do with whether or not, there's an Isra al Baila. No, you talk about onus. So when a woman is forced into a rape situation, a married woman, she's not Asur al Baila because of onus. But that doesn't have anything to do with Yeharg Val Yav. Ketiris Rabbeinu Tam. Sheisha eina tzricha limsar es nafshal gilei arayos b'bias nochu. L'fisha v'sugya seinu nisparsha afkare Rachmana Lizare, that the Torah says that his bia is like that of behema. Biasin echshavas k'bias behema v'ein chayeves visa al biasa. V'imkein eina tzricha limsar nafsha k'dei shelo yovo leo noch. So this sugya here on Daf Tzadiches has tremendous repercussions in terms of Gilei Arayos. Would Gilei Arayos apply to a guy who has a relationship with a Jewish girl? And if the Torah, as Rabbeinu Tam says, Afkre Rachmana Lizare means that the guy is not considered a Maisa Bia, then it's not Gili Arayas. And therefore she would not have to give up her life al Kiddush Hashem. Omnom Harivam Cholik al Rabbeinu Tam. Another one of the Bali Atos from the same family of Rashi disagrees with Rabbeinu Tam. Meaning, if it's not an onus case, but a Jewish married woman has an affair with a guy, she's asur al baila. It means that his bia is considered not bias behema. Bevadei she'ein bias and sheves kebias behema. If she's asur al baila, Masha Amru Rachmana Afkre Rachmana Lazare. The kurva, but he still has a bia that's recognized as a valid bia by the Torah. So what is Gemara meaning subis? That in the Hegmon scenario, we should have taught the girls, the tznuos, that they don't have to give up their life. But according to the Rivam, they should really have to give up their life because Bias Akum is considered a Bia and it's Gili Arayas. It comes on the Yehar Gal Yav. And the Gemara says, Kain Sheva Ones, Eina Neseres Al Balean. Okay, that's fine. But what does that have to do with the head there for Gili Arayas? Ikshu B'tos with Sheba Yitzrichos Limsaras and Nefesh Al Gili Arayas. V'bnei Ma Yishtana Adin. What good is it to teach these girls that they're not a suicide baleim because this Hegmon situation is an onus, and therefore we should tell them that they're allowed to submit themselves to this bia? That's not really so, because according to the Rivam, bias akum is Gili Arayas, and Allah of Yehar Gal Yav should kick in. This, despite the fact that she's not a surah violent. Via Harivam, Shemashit Sorach Limsars on Nefesh al Gila Rayas, Hainu Ba'ofen Shehu Osamais. He is the active agent in a Maisa Bia, and they're putting a gun to his head. He has to be willing to give up his life rather than violate Gila Rayas. Avalkana Isha Hikarka Olam, but in the case where a woman is totally passive, like in the Hegmon situation, the Ena Osa Maisa. Al Kain Eina Tzricha Limsars Nefesh. So according to Rabbeinu Tam, the reason why she doesn't have to give up her life is because Bias Akum and Rachman Afkei Zari is not considered a Bia. According to the Rivam, the reason she doesn't have to give up her life is because she is Karka Olam, she is totally passive. Uketiritz HaGemara b'Sanhedrin Ayin Daled Amud Beis L'chein Lo Masra Esther Es Nafsha. Now, why does Karka Olam mitigate Gili Arayas? I mean, she made the decision to submit herself. But why is that not Gili Arayas? We're holding now like the Rivam that Bias Akum is considered Bia. Rachman Afkei Zari is only Allah in Yufs. So again, let me just reiterate the question. Why, according to the Rivam, is there no Gili Arayas in the case of Goy? And the onus is not going to help you over here because she now has to make that decision. So I think what the Rivam is saying here, I mean, what I'm going to tell you now is a bit, this is, how do we say, below Yeravon Mugbal, Yeravon Mugbal, is that Gili Arayas for Yehar Gal Yava requires a ma'aseh in which you are violating actively the Torah law. But if you are totally victimized without any active participation in in the Maisa. Like, for example, this is a Tosus in Sanhedrin. What if they put a gun to your head? They say, allow yourself to be thrown from a high roof onto a baby, you'll crush and kill the baby by the sheer impact of your fall. And Tosus says that in such a case, he would not have to give up his life because that, even though, again, somebody's going to die, but he's not actively involved in murdering that person. And that's not considered Yehard Vel Yavar. Yehard Vel Yavar only applies when you have made that decision to actively violate either Ritzicha or Gili Arayis or Avodah Zarah. And here's where we have the famous kasha of Chaim. Rav Chaim doesn't understand this Tosfos because it says if the goyim are throwing him onto the baby, they are doing the Ma'aseh. So we have a rotz. That's a difficult. Okay, then so let's just make a note of where we got up to here. And that's here. And in the Gemara itself, we're up to the case of Miktasan Khan, correct? Is that where we got up to?
Right.
Okay. That's on Sariches Omid Beis.
Berzin, I hope to participate tomorrow, but we're going to be heading back to the States and we'll be coming back